it's a really deep reset of the brain, the neuroplasticity in the brain that happens. There's all these studies from Stanford about how the brain after ibogaine is like about a year younger, which is amazingly crazy that it can happen like that. A person can see visions and can have more of like an insight of what is going on in the journey, but sometimes it's very confusing. The visuals come to you like very fast. You can see, which you probably have heard of this, but like you kind of see like your life, kind of like a in slides. That's how I saw it, like a slide, passing by and very fast. And you're like kind of you see something, you're like, oh wait, I wanted to see that. It's gone already. And so yeah, and it's a very grounding experience into your body, into what it means to be human. So it's not cosmic in that way like other plant medicines. This is more about like what it means to be human and the pain that we experience and how we are also animals. Maro, maro, nande na he. Maro, maro, nande na he.
Paulina, welcome to Cura Medicina.
Thank you, Derek. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting
I'm,
me.
of course, I'm so excited to talk to you. And yeah, would you like to just tell us a little bit about your journey? I'm really interested, how people come to medicine. If you could just say a little bit about that.
Yeah. Thank you. For me, I think it started actually doing LSD when I was 18. I had no idea what it was. A friend shared it with me, and he said, "This is going to be a lot of fun. Do you want to try it?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" And it was really powerful experience, unexpected. And I think after that, I really got interested into psychedelics and plant medicine. And then yeah, eventually, like years later, I did peyote. So and that was my first actual experience with a plant medicine. That it was in a good setting. So I was like over by Real de Catorce, by the El Quemado, which is this mountain that the witch all go to
Mm.
for pilgrimage. And so that was my first time actually having an experience that was something that I could understand and integrate, because the LSD, even though it was powerful, I had no idea. I just was happy to like be back from the trip. So yeah, so then I was curious. After doing peyote, it was a beautiful experience. And then yeah, I just became curious about other ones like psilocybin mushrooms. And eventually I did also MDMA. Yeah, so I think it started in that way, in how I started to experience that for myself. And then it was not until I did ibogaine that I started working with some of these psychedelics or plant medicine. And that was in 2013. I did ibogaine for the first time, and by then I had a master's in psychology and human development. So then I started working with ibogaine clinics in Mexico as like a coach, therapist, guide. And then from there, I started to offer like my own, journeys and ceremonies.
Yeah, and you quite frequently offer in Tepoztlan, which is one of my favorite places on the whole planet. So, if anyone out there is listening and would like to experience, I think one of the most magical places in Mexico, Tepoztlan, and I know you do quite a bit of your work there, so that's amazing. And I just wanted to say that you also have a great book, Psychedelic Revelations, which I read, and you told this, I remember now, you told the story of the LSD. There's a lot of details in there, which is really interesting. And if anybody's interested there are a lot of books out there that, like, I wrote a book just on ayahuasca, but your book is really beautiful because it covers so many medicines, and you break down the differences and your journey with each. So I really love that about your book there. I think it's unique in that way, right? Is in
Mm,
offering so much. And so, one, I just did a podcast with a friend of mine that did Iboga 2 weeks ago.
great.
So, could you explain a little bit the difference between Iboga and Ibogaine, and maybe a little bit of the history, and uh, if somebody's looking at the smorgasbord of medicines, what why should they pick Iboga, for example? So I know there's a lot in there, but just give us your expertise on that.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the difference between iboga, which is iboga, usually is known as the root bark, right? And ibogaine, it's the alkaloid that it's in the iboga root bark, but it's also in a different plant which is called huacanga. So ibogaine is going to be the alkaloid. And then it can come from Huacanga, that plant, or it can also come from the Iboga, Tabernante Iboga plant. Now, when people do Iboga, the root bark, it always comes from the Tabernante Iboga plant and not from the Huacanga, just to kind of like clarify that.
Okay. And are they
But
related, the two plants? Are they?
I don't know exactly. Like I don't know
Hmm,
the Latin name for Boacanga, but because they have ibogaine, they might be related.
hmm,
Yeah. Um, so I mean, it's yeah. The root bark has the alkaloid, right? But then also has many other alkaloids. And when you do the root bark, you're taking more of the plant, more of the Tabernante iboga plant, which is also what the Buiti in Gabon take, right? They take the root bark. Um, so what I would say is that because it has more of the alkaloids, it can be maybe more complete in a way. Coming from the plant with all these alkaloids, then you get a longer journey and also with more elements. It's hard to say, because these experiences with plant medicines and psychedelics are very hard to explain
hmm,
and describe. But then, yeah, if you do ibogaine only, it's also very powerful, also very strong, and it can last a long time. But you have less of the alkaloids from the iboga root bark. So what I would say is that usually people do the purified ibogaine form because they're looking for addiction treatment, or also a lot for like veterans that are experiencing TBIs and PTSD. So then the purified form is better because then it really gets to that. I would say that part of resetting the brain and all the receptors in the brain, right, for treating
hmm,
addiction and these other things, PTSD and TBIs, um, without having all of the other alkaloids that can be also kind of challenging to process for the body. So it can be a lot when it has all of the alkaloids, right? So when you have only the purified ibogaine, then it's easier in a way for the person to go through the experience without all the other stuff, and then, yeah, I would say that doing the journey with the root bark, um, yeah, I think it's just different. It's hard to explain, but it can be more challenging. You may throw up more. You may have more of that feeling of nausea and yeah, just feeling like you want to vomit. And so yeah, and also the way they take it, the way usually people take it, it's gradually. You take different doses, where with ibogaine you usually have one or two doses, and then that's it. And the amount is, it's less. It's usually in a capsule when you're doing ibogaine. When you're doing the root bark, it depends on the facilitator, but sometimes you're taking the actual root bark, and it's kind of a very strong bitter taste. Yeah, so yeah, I would say maybe the root bark, because it comes from the tradition of the Buiti, can have more of that ceremonial aspect depending on
hmm.
the facilitator. Then when you're doing only ibogaine, that is more used, I would say, for in the clinics, the addiction treatment clinics, or the clinics that are working with veterans and people who have other things like depression, anxiety, um, what's this other one, Parkinson's, things like
Mm.
that. Hmm.
And how do you think it works? What if you were to describe, and I know, as you said, it's very mysterious. So, well, two questions. How do you think it works? And do you also feel with ibogaine you're still receiving the spirit of the plant because it is a synthesis of a plant?
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it's a really strong reset doing ibogaine. Whether you do ibogaine or the root bark, I think with the root bark, it depends on how much the person takes. Because if you don't take the full dose, then you might not get the whole reset. So yeah, but it's a really deep reset of the brain, the neuroplasticity in the brain that happens. There's all these studies from Stanford about how the brain after ibogaine is like about a year younger, which is amazingly crazy that it can happen like that. Um, and in the journey, a person can see visions and can have more of like an insight of what is going on in the journey, but sometimes it's very confusing. The the visuals come to you like very fast. You can see, which you probably have heard of this, but like you kind of see like your life kind of like a in slides. That's how I saw it, like a slide, passing by and very fast. And you're like kind of you see something, you're like, oh wait, I wanted to see that, it's gone already. And so yeah, and it's a very grounding experience into your body, into what it means to be human. So it's not cosmic in that way, like other plant medicines. This is more about like what it means to be human, and the pain that we experience, and how we are also animals that we should not forget. There's that part, right? That is very much connected also to ancestors and the root of being. And so that's usually what people share. And then yeah, and then the part that happens, this reset in the moment, right? It can be confusing. You might have some insights, some realization, some find some resolution to certain things, but then afterwards, what I experience and what I've seen is that there's like a shift that already happened in you. And as you integrate through the weeks and months, you realize how certain things have changed without you actually making the change. It's like it already happened, and you're just kind of like catching up to it. So suddenly you might have this habit of, like, let's say recently a client that came, he had a habit of biting his nails. And his intention in the journey was not to stop doing that. It wasn't that important to him. But a few days later, he texted me and he's like, oh my God, I stopped doing this. Like it just stopped. And I just realized that I haven't done it for a week. And so that's something that, yeah, that it's very unique to ibogaine, I would say. That throughout the months you start to realize how some things have changed and your perception has changed. Yeah, so that's,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of what I would
Yeah, no,
share.
beautiful. That's beautiful. And, ibogaine is famously known for, and iboga, for addiction, right? Like people with deep addictions have tried everything else, and it seems to be somehow a magic cure for addiction. What do you think is happening in that scenario? Is the medicine showing the person the root of the addiction, or is it removing the the desire for the actual whatever the thing is. Yeah, I'm just curious about that because this is what it's. I mean, what I've heard most about it is like, if you're addicted, like, go do it.
Ibogaine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what I would say is that because it does, like physiologically, it does that reset of the receptors in the brain. So imagine it, like having a really deep detox. So physically, after Ibogaine, people don't have cravings and they don't have withdrawals. So even if the person didn't have an insight during the journey about the root of their addiction, when they come out of the experience and the next following days and weeks, depending on the person, even months, they experience that they don't have cravings, they don't have withdrawals. So that's already amazing, for someone who wants to stop, their dependence. So that's one part. And then, yeah, for some people, they do see like what was the root of their addiction, even like what are their triggers, what kind of relationships are part of the addiction, the environment, how that's not helpful for them to get into the addiction. So but I would say it's not necessarily like not each of the clients have that. Some do, and then some maybe more through the integration process they figure that out, like, oh, okay, it's coming from this, maybe some childhood trauma, or yeah, um, you know sometimes it's also like they see it in their families, right? So someone in the family was experiencing maybe alcohol abuse, and then in a way it's like pass on to them. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a mix, I would say, but the part that is for sure is that it removes the withdrawals and the cravings, and that's why it's very successful. Now, it doesn't mean that each person that comes, with an addiction problem and they do ibogaine, that maybe in 3 to 6 months they don't go back to using whatever substance, but at least they get a break and they get to experience themselves with that need without the withdrawal. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah. So
powerful.
it's beautiful. It gives them kind of gives them a reprieve from the addiction, maybe long enough to you know relive what it's like without that addiction, and maybe that's
Yeah.
enough motivation for them to actually make real changes in their life, and
Yeah,
yeah. What
exactly.
Yeah. What does, everyone's talking about integration in the ayahuasca circles these days. What does integration look like after ibogaine journey?
Yeah, I would say with ibogaine, you need like a longer integration, because it keeps showing you things, and if you don't have someone that supports you in some way, then you might miss those things. You might be like, oh, I don't, not pay attention to those things, or so yeah. So I would say, I mean, depending on the clinic, what I offer is usually at least 3 sessions for integration as part of the package, right, of what I offer. But then, of course, if the person wants to continue, then we continue. But I would say it's probably good to give it at least 3 months where you have support. And it doesn't have to be like a weekly support, it can be every 2 weeks, or, but just something so you feel like you have someone to talk to, and to share like where you're at. And integration has different phases, right? So like after the journey, there's this the honeymoon phase that many people call it, where you feel really good, you're like inspired and motivated to make all the changes. And then, yeah, and then the second phase, where the person is maybe already made some changes, in their routine, their habits, relationship, things like that. But then the second phase is when all things start to come back, all patterns, habits, dynamics, and so then you're like, oh no, I've lost it, right? I've lost the healing, or what I received. And so that's an important part, because you haven't lost it. It's more like, no, now you're being confronted with these things. and what are you going to do about it, so that's an important part for having support, the second phase.
Mm,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, and then I would say the last phase is like, now you've integrated these insights and these new habits into your life, but then of course there's still things to work on, right? So yeah, but now it's more integrated, and you're not so much like, oh no, I lost it. You're more like, oh no, yeah, I've done this progress, and now I need to continue. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, now I want to switch to, I mean, as you know, I love ayahuasca, but my other all time favorite medicine is mushrooms,
Mm.
psychedelic mushrooms, which are such a beautiful gift. And really, I feel in a lot of ways, mushrooms brought me to ayahuasca. Like they kind of
Mm.
helped me along to ayahuasca. And I once did a journey in the mountains of Oaxaca. There's a very famous town. I don't remember the name of it. That is like you, and it was one of the most surreal experiences I've ever had. You go into this town, and you can just feel the mushrooms everywhere in the town, and they're selling jars of. They put them in honey usually, and I,
Yep.
I can remember drinking the honey, and was with a group of Mexican friends, and we just had such a wonderful journey. And yeah, so just let's talk a little bit about mushrooms. I know that's also a medicine you work with quite a bit.
Hmm.
Yeah, just tell us a
Yeah.
little. I'd love to know more about, of course, we all know Maria Sabina and her. She was really instrumental in bringing mushrooms to the world stage, but Mexico's relationship with mushrooms, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. Maria Sabina, she became very popular because, and I'm not going to remember, but this person from the U.S. came, right? I think he was a researcher, maybe.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
can't remember who it was. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
So he comes to Oaxaca, right to Huautla, and that's where Maria Sabina was, and they take him there. Um, she wasn't even that well known in the community, actually. So it's interesting that she becomes really like very, famous after, this, yeah, this researcher goes there to take the mushrooms. So what I would say is that, yeah, it's very much part of the culture. Depends on the which state you're in, but also like in Tepoztlan, in this area, yeah, there's a lot of tradition around, psilocybin mushrooms. And so, yeah, from what is known, there's different, yeah, cultures, indigenous groups that have been taking them for many years. And in Oaxaca, there's that concentration of like smaller communities because, yeah, they grow so much in the mountains. And so there's Huautla, but then there's other little, smaller towns where people, yeah, they just take them as part of their religious tradition. And so initially, what I've learned and read is that they had their own rituals, but then when the colonization happens, then they start to, I would say, include the Catholic beliefs
Mm.
into their ceremonies. So, for example, yeah, the velada, which was what Maria Sabina and other, shamans like her were doing, included a lot of elements that are from Catholicism. Um, so that's also for me when I experienced that, and I went years ago to Oaxaca. I don't know how it was for you if you had a velada, but for me there was a little bit of a resistance because even though I grew up Catholic, I'm not a Catholic, and I don't, I don't follow that. So that was a little bit challenging. So, and that's kind of how it stayed, for those indigenous groups. Then maybe more, there's still some that are not including that, that are more based on their own beliefs related to nature, related to, the two energies of nature, the relationship to the earth and to the sun and the cosmos. So, um, yeah, I don't know if I got kind of like uh, away from the topic that you were asking
No,
me, but
perfect, perfect.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
I didn't realize. I mean, it makes sense that there was, during the colonization, it happened in so many places. I see it in Brazil, and I see it, I mean, so many places that they mm, they bring in the deities of Catholicism into the indigenous way of thinking. The famous ones are the Santo Daime, right, of Brazil, and
Yeah.
it's really like a church and with ayahuasca. It's like a Catholic church with ayahuasca, um, and yeah. And I just wonder how far back the indigenous use of, I guess nobody really knows, use of mushrooms was. How
Yeah.
do you, when you do a ceremony, tell me a little bit about what your ceremony is like? How do you, yeah, kind of walk me through like the whole, I love learning about how people hold space.
Hmm.
And I would love to learn more about, what your mushroom ceremonies are like. And if anybody's listening and, wants to be part of it, then they can do that. But yeah, just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's interesting, I think when you were asking, I was like, yeah, how did I develop that? And I think, I mean, my first work with plant medicine was with Ibogaine. So, since 2013, 14, I started doing that. And then eventually I was working with a clinic that they work with veterans, giving Ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT in Tijuana. But we wanted to also offer something for the spouses
Hmm.
because they also suffer from the PTSD that their partners, when they come back from being away. So, but ibogaine was not necessary. Like it's very strong. We were looking at like, well, what can we offer them? And we offered psilocybin journeys for the women. Um, that way, they still get to experience and process and release a lot of these difficulties and challenges, but it's not as challenging as ibogaine and 5-meo DMT. So that's kind of how I started doing that, working with psilocybin, with the mushrooms. And but I had, I mean, I experienced, with the mushrooms a long time ago. That was like after peyote, it was the next plant medicine, that I did, and they are amazing. They're, beautiful, they're playful, and they also show you your shadows. So so that's kind of how I started working with the mushrooms, the psilocybin mushrooms. And I developed the ceremony similar to what it's what I do with ibogaine. But yeah, just to share about it, the ceremony itself includes a part that has to do with working with intention. So we work with intention. We also do a fire ceremony, as part of what I've learned, through the different, I would say, experiences and initiations that I've had. I also offer like an energy healing in a way that it's like a shamanic practitioner kind of thing. So that is individual. So, and it's optional. It's not necessary for everyone, but that also helps me to kind of like connect more with the person. And then, we sage the space, we sage each person for sure. And like I was saying, we work with the fire ceremony and an intention. And and just really, there's a part that is guided meditation. We do a prayer for sure, and connecting to the spirits of the land wherever I am, and to the space and each of the ancestors and spirit guides of the participants that are there. So really making sure that we create that container that feels intentional and honoring the place where we are. And then for sure, making sure that it's safe space, that's a setting. I try to have the settings in nature, like not outside, inside, but that you're surrounded by trees or mountains or a river. Um, and and so we're inside, and then the journey itself, it's you're laying down with your eyes closed. So the journey. then looks a little bit also more like therapeutic in that way, where people are, laying down with their eye mask on. There's music playing. Sometimes there's a sound bath, but then I usually have a playlist that I kind of like. I have different ones, but that I developed throughout the years, um, and that works really well for people. And then the journey, yeah, is about 4 hours, depending on the person. And then you kind of like slowly come out of your experience and have a time to maybe journal if you feel like you want to, write down some things after the journey. And then we have some snacks and start to integrate together. um, yeah, so I would say it's a mix. So there's that part
Mm.
of having the spiritual part, right? But then also the therapeutic part. And the way that I have or hold space is, um, I approach the person, the participant, if I see that they need help, if they need support. But I really don't want to interrupt their journey. I don't want to like guide their journey. I trust completely that the mushroom is gonna work with what they need the most, with their own wisdom. And so I'm just there to support them, to help them feel safe. If they feel anxious, I'm with them, with the person, and helping them. Yeah, just connect to your breath and ground yourself, and kind of like, um, yeah, have them connect with their courage also. Like, yes, you can do this. And yeah, so yeah, and of course, when a person, like, let's say one of the participants needs me and I'm not going, because sometimes you don't see it from the outside so much, depending on how the person is, then they can ask for me, and then I come and sit by them and we can talk for a moment. But yeah, that's kind of the approach that I have for the
Beautiful.
ceremonies.
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. I know you went to um, visit the Yawanawa in Brazil a
I
few like
did.
year and a half ago or so.
Yeah.
Tell me about that journey. How did you get there? Tell me what it was like, and yeah, I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. It was an amazing experience. So yeah, in these ceremonies that I do, right, with the psilocybin, I have a person that, friend now, that he came to many of these journeys with me, and then he started to share. He's from Brazil, so he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go with the Yawanawa," and he had already gone before. I was like, "Oh, I really want to go. It looks amazing." Um, so yeah, so I went. Yeah, I think it was about a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years. And yeah, we arrived. I think we all flew into Brasilia, and then from there went into, I'm not gonna remember,
Crucero del
Rio.
Sol.
There, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And then we went there, and so yeah, so just the whole trip is pretty long.
yeah.
Um, and then yeah, once you get into the port where you take the boat, that's when it gets really really exciting. um, and so yeah, so there were like, I think there were like about 13 of us in the group. um,
Which village? Do you know which village it was?
oh I
Mazzini or Rasu?
um, oh, I'm not gonna remember
Yeah,
that,
it's
which
okay.
is
It's okay.
terrible because they're
No,
great.
yeah, no, they're all good. They're all good. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember that right now. But so yeah, so we went, we go, yeah, you go on the boat. And I remember just being on the boat and suddenly you see these huge trees. And I was just like so excited. And then we get to the village, and which I think the boat ride is like maybe 2 hours or 3 hours, something like
Easy.
that.
Depends. Yeah. Could
Yeah,
be
it's
8
long.
hours.
Yeah, it's long. I remember we would stop sometimes because people need to go to the bathroom, and so. But then yeah, we got to the village, and as a welcoming, they don't call him a shaman. You might know what they call them. They're not exactly
Page.
shamans. Yeah, the
Uh,
pache.
mm.
Uh-huh. He welcomes you with some rapé, and I had done rapé before, and I had terrible experiences. I was like, I really don't want to do rapé, but I was like, okay, I guess, and so I was like, can you do like a soft one? And he was like, yes, I'll do that. And it was beautiful.
Mm.
He did the rapé, and I remember just sitting looking at the river and the jungle, and I was like,
Mm.
oh my God. And I think that's when my journey started, actually, in that
Yeah,
moment. Yeah, it was
beautiful.
powerful. Yeah. And then, yeah, then we were staying in tents in these like cabins, but you had a tent really inside. And we had three ayahuasca ceremonies. The first one, it was a full moon, and they had invited also other villages. So it was a big group. It was beautiful. Yeah, magical. I took pictures of the fire. I don't know at what point, but in the smoke, in the pictures, you can see faces and stuff. Yeah, it was amazing. And Yeah, and I felt very safe. Like I remember just going for walks within the village when we did the ayahuasca, the first ceremony. I walked back by myself, and actually on the way back, I could hear the jungle talking to me.
Yeah,
And so it was very very different than other journeys, because it felt very much like you have to be there to do ayahuasca or something. Like, I don't know, because how the jungle was talking to me. It didn't even seem to be ayahuasca. It was like it was a jungle. So yeah, so we did three ceremonies. The first one, I think it was the next day after we arrived. um, and then we did one that was during the day, and we went to this sacred, like, samauma.
Samometry. Hmm.
Yeah, and that was a day ceremony where they also gave us a bath with like
Hmm.
plants. They also did and I'm not going to remember the name right now, of the paintings in the face,
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
preparation for all these different journeys, that it was like a way of protecting ourselves. So that was amazing too. And then towards the end of the time that we were there for like 7 nights. We had one more ayahuasca ceremony. Um, yeah, so I would say for me, of the three ceremonies, the first one was the most powerful. But then the last one, I felt more comfortable. So then I had more visuals with the last
Hmm.
one. But the first one is when I received most of the messages, I would say. Yeah. And then, yeah, during the time there, they also taught us different things. Like they showed us like different plant medicines. Some people went fishing with them. They shared also like how they cook, and some of the games they play. Yeah, it was great. It was very complete. Yeah, there were some
Beautiful.
things that were challenging for sure. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not an easy trip, that's for sure, but it's a beautiful trip. Worthy of doing
it
if you
is.
have the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, of all the medicines and ceremonies you've done, can you describe to me a ceremony where you got a big lesson or connected to an ancestor or spirit, like one that you really stands out for you? You're like, oh yeah, I remember this one.
yeah, for sure. So I would say the peyote one is one that was very powerful for me the first time I did peyote, um, because it was such a strong connection with nature, and I became different animals. Like I was an eagle for a while, but then I was
Mm,
also like a deer later on in the journey. And I just experienced like love, in how that's all there is really. And it was a huge like lesson and understanding, that had a really big impact on me at that time in my life. I think I was, maybe, I forget, but 20 or something,
mm,
20 years old. But then, the other one right now that comes up is Ibogaine. The first time I did Ibogaine,
mm.
My grandfather came in the journey, which I didn't meet. He died before I was born.
Mm,
So it was kind of hard to. I was like, "Who's talking to me?" Because there was someone talking to me in the journey. I'm like, I don't recognize that voice. And then he came into the journey, yeah, and said like, start to talk about my father, and he kept wanting to teach me about forgiveness. And he was like, "You need to forgive your father." And I was like, "Forgive him for what?" Like I can't think of anything. Like, of course, I mean, like any father, he's, yeah, maybe grounded me or whatever things, but nothing major. And and then eventually I understood that, in a way, the lesson, a mix of ibogaine, right, with my grandfather, but the lesson about forgiveness, like how do you forgive someone when you don't know what to forgive them about,
mm,
right? So forgiveness, just to forgive without having a reason, or like, that was a big lesson. And I think it's something that I continue to explore, because in the moment you do it, right, you're in the journey and the medicine is guiding you in how to do it, really. And I was just like, okay, this is what forgiveness is, no matter what, no matter what it is, because I don't even know what I'm forgiving, what's the deal. What's the problem? So yeah.
I love the idea of forgiving without a cause,
Yeah.
right? Just forgiving, because it feels like forgiving in that way really is a way to open the heart, right? Like, I
Hmm.
forgive you for whatever you've done in your life that I don't know about.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. What do you think is happening in a scenario like that where your grandfather comes in? Do you feel like the spirit of your grandfather is actually entering the psychic space? And yeah, just I'm interested because
I do.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that it felt like that. Because he was there and I have no memory of him because I didn't meet him. So yeah, he entered the space to, maybe it was like taking the opportunity that I was, doing this experience. And Ibogaine is very much about ancestral work also. So I think, in my altar, he was there. I had a picture of him,
Mm,
in the altar that I had set up for the journey. So yeah, I do think that
that's
that happens.
oh no, I do too. And I
Yeah,
love that you brought the altar piece in because what I've learned over the years is the way we open those doors is through honoring before the ceremony, like in our daily life, in our daily rituals. I have an altar of all my ancestors on, pictures of my ancestors on my altar, and that's something very new to me. That's I never thought about my ancestors. Like, I don't want anything to do with my ancestors. My
yeah.
family, and it wasn't until I started the practice of actually honoring them, which, especially in American society, it's very uncommon. It's not common to think about our ancestors as um, a force in our lives. Like, yes, they have passed away, but the spirit of them are still here. And I love that you brought that through, because I think what happens in these plant spaces is we're actually able to enter this other communication realm, right? Where ancestors can speak to us, spirit guides can speak to us. Like you said, you became a bird, and
Hmm.
those 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 are not hallucinations. Those are
Yeah.
actual connection with
Yeah.
spirit. That
Yeah.
is a portal that's being opened, and we are then able to commune, right, with those people. So thank you for bringing that. That was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And I think, since about a year ago, well, a little bit more, maybe a year and a half, I've been studying ancestral healing and ancestral lineage healing. And what I've learned also, which is very important, is that not all of our ancestors are actually so. In this training, what we learn is like an ancestor is a family member that has died, and that it's a helpful uh, ancestor, right? So otherwise, not all of them are helpful. Not all of them are well, even though they're
Hmm.
dead, right? So there's a process after they died of becoming healthy or well, depending on the person, right? So also knowing that, that's been helpful for me to make sure that the ancestors that I'm calling in are the ones that are healthy, that are supportive, and the other ones can stay within a boundary that it's safe.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I also hold mushroom ceremonies. And what I do is I make an offering plate for the unhealthy ancestors and I put it outside.
Oh,
And for
nice.
the healthy ancestors, I put one inside.
Yeah.
And I ask the unhealthy ones, please, here's a feeding, but please stay in the
Yeah.
perimeter. And that's been a really powerful practice for me.
Nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that idea. Yeah, because I mean, you don't. It's not a rejection. It's just simply
No.
like, no, we're doing this work, and we need only the support of the ones that are
Yeah.
well, that are healthy.
Yeah. And as we
Yeah.
know, boundaries are so important in our own
Yeah.
lives. They're
True.
as important in the spiritual world too, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your book. And why did you decide to do it? And what was the process like? It's not an easy thing to write a book, I
It's
tell
not.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think years ago, I always was like, yeah, I don't know. It was like on my mind to write a book. And then I don't know what point I was like, okay, I'm going to write it. And then I took this really short class on how to write a book, like something like write your book in 100 days or something like that, which is not possible, at least not for me. But I got into the class and it really helped me to do the outline and
Mm,
start writing. So the intention of writing the book, it was a mix of sharing like my experiences in a way that can be helpful for others, who are gonna take a journey. And so yeah, so it's a mix of wanting to share what has worked for me and what hasn't. And then also just a desire to write it. So it's been both. And then yeah, once I started writing it, I was like, okay, well, how can I connect this in a way that makes sense, as a way of because in the book there's a part, each chapter shares like the meaning of that I had in that at that time in my life, and how I made sense of the experience according to where I was in my life. And I think that's very important because, yeah, each journey that you take, depending on where you're at and also your level of development in your like ego and awareness and all of that, makes a big difference in what you do with it.
yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of like how I got into writing it. It took me 2 years, and it's still obviously not perfect. I could have kept fixing it, but I was like, I need to publish it because
The writer's
other
dilemma. Like I look back on my book now, I'm like, oh, there's so many things I would have done differently.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, when I look at the book, I'm like, oh, this is repeated here. Wait, like, and so, yeah, so that was really challenging. Actually, I think that was the most challenging part, was editing the book, and I had help, but even with that help, it wasn't that good either to have the help. So, anyways, yeah, I think it's unique, like you say, in that way that it shares about different plant medicines, different psychedelics, the kind of unique voice of each one, right? The
Yes.
the kind of teaching that you receive, or not teaching, it's more, yeah, I would say maybe it's the intelligence or the spirit of
Hmm.
each of the different psychedelics and plant medicines. And that's what I think it's unique. And also this part about connecting to like how do you make sense of things, right? And I focused on healing, like what does healing mean when you're 18, right? And when I was 18, healing for me meant just being happy with being at home with my family. That was
Mm-hmm.
it. It was very simple. But then as you grow and you learn, and then it seems to get more complicated, and then maybe eventually it starts to get more simple again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully there's a circle, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I want to
yeah,
read something from the book that I love. We find it here. It's one of my favorite passages. Towards the end of it, it says, ultimately, allowing transformation to unfold requires stepping away from rigid identities and outdated beliefs, embracing our ever evolving nature, staying attuned to our true selves, and remaining connected to the present moment are essential the authentic growth. And it's there's like, I think all of spirituality is kind of in that one paragraph. Loved it so much. I think I even sent it to you. I was like, I read your book, and here's a great quote.
oh, thank you.
Um, and yeah, yeah. If you want to say something about that or not, that's fine too. Yeah, I
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know one thing that really sticks out for me is like this. Everyone's talking about authenticity, right? Like how to be your true self and what that looks like, and how do we get there. And uh, that for me is feels like the core of much of the work is stripping away all of the cultural and familiar and ancestral, and getting to this core in ourselves that is us, and then showing the world that, because we're not afraid, or you don't have self-doubt. So yeah, just would love your input on that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. I think, like you say, that part of connecting to your authentic self, it's really a learning process. Because, I mean, I think when we were kids, we probably knew, right? But then, yeah, as we grow and you get education and culture and all of these, um, then we start to get more, yeah, just instead of getting more connected to it, to that essence, we become more disconnected. And then, yeah, so for me, I think it's been like you say, like recognizing which part is culture, education, which part comes from family, right, ancestors, um, and and also colonization, right? Like how much
Mm.
of even some words, the meaning that some words have, is because they come from like colonization. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah,
but
totally,
it's like,
totally.
yeah. So like also kind of like how do I decolonize myself,
Yeah.
and it's, I think, with these plant medicines and these journeys, it helps you to get to that sense of like, okay, yeah, this is me, this is my authentic self, is this, um, and even exploring what does that look like, right, when I'm with someone, what does that look like in yeah, like you say, like can I bring that into a group, into a family dynamic, or not, right? And how do I not lose that connection to my essence, to my authentic self, while at the same time I'm in this group? And yeah, it's tricky. I would say it's not like, it's something you have to learn and to practice every day, and being really grounded in your body. I think that's one
Mm.
of the things that I've learned, is that, yeah, if I'm not grounded in my body, there's no way that I can connect to this essence.
Mm.
And yeah, so it's something that Also doing these shamanic practices that are not related to plant medicine, or like altered states of consciousness necessarily. Um, it also has helped me to know more, like, okay, this is the essence of myself, of, of, like, yeah, of who I am, um, and what has remained since I was born. It's the same thing. That essence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you say grounded in your body, what do you have a practice that helps you do that?
I do, yeah. So, I mean, I would say there's different practices, but yeah, I have a practice that I've learned from the trainings, that I take. It has to do with connecting with, the belly, connecting to the root chakra, to the core of the earth, and then
Mm,
also connecting from there, going up and connecting to your heart, right? And then connecting to your crown chakra, your
mm,
head, and to the high above and the cosmos. So yeah, so grounded doesn't mean only connected to the earth, but also connected to the
mm,
high above and the cosmos. Just kind of like, yeah, working with those two energies as a way of being like, how do you say, yeah, just like grounded and feeling that vitality from
mm.
the earth, but then also receiving what comes from the high above, which feels like lots of blessings and protection, and kind of like the sunlight, no? When you receive the sunlight, like if you imagine a flower or a plant receiving the sunlight, it's like, oh, they can just be, you can just be under the
I love
sun.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's a beautiful practice, but I always think about grounding as like getting into the earth. But
Mm.
you're saying it's the earth, but it's also open to the above.
Yeah. Yeah. For me,
That's a
it's like
great
that.
reminder.
Mhm. Yeah. And of course, if you're not well grounded, then receiving that from the above is not going to work out. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, just goes out your bottom chakra.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share here or
Um,
say?
Let me see. I wanted to take a picture of us.
Oh
Can
yeah,
I
of
do
course.
that? I was
I can send you one too, from the
okay.
video. Yeah, I'll
Okay,
send you
yeah,
one.
because then it's cool just to share. I was trying
Yeah,
to take one
absolutely.
before, but
I'll send you one. I'll send you
okay,
one.
awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think what I would say that has been important for me too, because I'm a Dzogchen practitioner, is
Hmm.
that all
Yeah.
the yeah,
Yeah.
like
It's
all
good.
these
I'm glad.
journeys,
Yeah.
yeah, all these journeys, all these states, right, where you experience so much magic, and also, visuals and visions, and all these very rich experience. When we come back into our day-to-day life, it's very important to remember that the awakening that happens, or the understanding that happens when in our like day-to-day, it doesn't look like that, right? It looks very different. And I think many times people, when they do a journey, then they kind of start looking for that same kind of um, richness in the way that they experienced it in the
Mm,
journey, but in like the day-to-day life is a lot more subtle and more simple. It's still very rich and beautiful and vibrant, but it's more subtle. So that's something that I think it's important, because then I've seen people just want to continue doing journeys because they want that super intense and, rich experience, and then they're missing out on what's available to us without any other plant medicine or psychedelic or anything. And I think that's one of the things that I would like to share, that I mean, plant medicine and psychedelics are amazing in how they can help us, and but also knowing that there's this practice that is important to have in our day-to-day. Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for bringing that in because I always tell people that the ceremony is great, but what matters is what you do after ceremony every day. Like that is what matters the most, and I always feel like it's in ayahuasca space. Ayahuasca is giving you a compass and it's saying go there, go towards meditation, go towards yoga, go towards breath work, stop eating animals, whatever it is. It's giving you a pointer, but then you have to actually walk that path. You have
Yeah.
to do the practice, you have to make the decisions and the changes. And this is something that I would like more people to talk about, and one of the reasons I started the podcast, because that's really when change happens. Change happens after the ceremony.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So
important. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, great. And if people want to find you, can they find you somewhere or
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have
yeah,
a website. It's trueisense.com.
great.
And yeah, I'm on Instagram, also True Isense.
Yeah, and I'll
Um,
put the links in the show notes so everyone can have them. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of like the way to find me.
Oh,
And then,
oh,
yeah.
great. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to meet you and have this conversation. When I read your book, I was like, oh, she's definitely a sister of mine, and we
Oh,
have the same hair too. Mine's up, but
I
we
know.
have
Yeah.
we have the same hair.
Curly,
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah,
hair.
you could be my sister easily. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Yeah. Maybe
thank you.
one day we'll meet in person. That would be great.
We will for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll make
Yeah.
it
Thank you
happen.
so much for
You're
inviting me. It's
welcome.
been really great
Yeah,
to talk to you. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
me too. Bye.
Great. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I thought it was great. I really love Paulina's energy and what she brings to this world. It's so great to talk to a medicine carrier and to, yeah, just follow her journey and see, all the medicines that she's worked with, which is so phenomenal. I really appreciate her and thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. And if you'd like to check out her book, I highly recommend it. It was really great. Psychedelic Revelations. There is a link in the show notes to the book. It was really good. Yeah, I loved it. So, wishing everyone a wonderful day. Look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Hoosh, hoosh.
Great owl spirit, come fly with me. Teach me to guide through the winds of life with ease and grace. Great owl spirit, come fly with me. Teach me to guide through the winds of life with ease and grace. Great owl spirit, come fly with me. Teach me to guide through the winds of life with ease and grace. 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 Night owl spirit, come fly with me. Teach me to guide through the winds of life with ease and grace.